As the impeachment trial continues for suspended Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, Renzo Downey, a Capitol reporter with the Texas-Tribune, has been at the trial all week. Renzo, what has it been like so far?
And so the trial got started on Tuesday, and since then we've started hearing from some of the key witnesses. First off, we heard from Jeff Mateer, who is the former first assistant attorney general. This is the second in command, Ken Paxton's top guy for a while, and he testified about how he was deeply concerned about what was going on in the Attorney General's office, that Ken Paxton's actions were seemingly illegal, that he was concerned that maybe he'd been blackmailed, and that he then went to the FBI with his concerns. And Paxton's attorneys, they were trying to make it seem like he had jumped to assumptions about what the Attorney General was doing. They tried to possibly bring up, this connection that, there were other powers trying to get rid of Ken Paxton, that there was a coup going on. That word was used during the trial yesterday. And they also started getting into how the Attorney General's office was helping Nate Paul, who is a donor of Ken Paxton, a Austin-based real estate investor. And Nate Paul is pretty central to this trial. So, hearing testimony about how Nate Paul was, how the Attorney General's office is trying to benefit Nate Paul, that's pretty key to what the House impeachment managers, and those are the House members who are leading the prosecution, if you want to call it that. That's pretty central to their argument.
I believe Nate Paul also has some Victoria roots here. We'll have to look further into that. And speaking of Victoria connections with this trial, our own state senator Lois Cloakhorse, how did she vote on this trial?
Yeah, so in the first phase of this trial, there were the pretrial motions, and this is a little different than a normal courtroom where you're basically having the jury decide whether the case should be dismissed early on. You had Ken Paxton's attorneys filing multiple motions ahead of trial, trying to dismiss the individual articles of impeachment. And so then it was up to the senators, who are the jury in this case, to decide by just a simple majority vote whether they should dismiss these charges. And State Senator Lois Cloakhorse, she was one of the, I believe, 6 senators who consistently voted on Ken Paxton's side. She was consistently voting to dismiss the articles of impeachment, and consistently voting in favor of his, other various motions along the way. So that's a pretty good indication of where she stands. There is a gag order over the trial, so that means that reporters can't ask her. She can't speak freely about the trial and her thoughts. So really, we're just having a look at these votes to see where senators' minds are at.
And Ken Paxton himself, we're doing this interview Thursday morning, so this may change later today, but Ken Paxton himself, he has not attended his own trial. Is this correct?
Well, he was there for the very start of it. During these pretrial motion votes that took up the majority of day one being Tuesday, and he then, after that, he pleaded not guilty to the charges, and after that they took a break, and he was gone after that, and he wasn't there yesterday.
So far, or I guess since the first day.
Yeah, so since the first day, he has not been there, and don't expect him to be there.
And his lawyers are already asking for several millions of dollars in a settlement. Is that right?
Yeah, so the settlement is basically what kicked everything off. And a settlement with the whistleblowers, some of whom are going to be testifying. We started hearing the first bit of testimony from the whistleblowers yesterday. And so that's the settlement that ended up going to the legislature. The attorney general had to ask the legislature to pay for the settlement, and the legislature started looking into it. The House started looking into it and decided there had been wrongdoing, and that's how we ended up with Attorney General Ken Paxton being impeached.
Well, Renzo, thank you so much for your coverage of this trial, the Texas Tribune for their coverage. We'll keep checking in with you throughout this process. Thank you so much, Renzo.
Thank you.
All right, back to y'all at the desk.